Vestaron Corporation, a leading innovator in sustainable crop protection solutions, has announced the EPA approval of its second novel-acting peptide-based insecticide, BASIN. The approval marks a crucial step in the company's journey to transform the agricultural crop protection sector and introduce innovative solutions for pest management that prioritize sustainability and effectiveness. The approval is big news for the ag industry, which doesn't see new modes of action introduced very often, thanks to the significant amount of time and cost involved. Ben Cicora is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Vestaron.
As many know, we're not gaining a lot of new modes of action in the industry anymore, not like we used to in the past. And I think the last report I saw here recently was, on average, it can take about 300 million and 10 to 12 years to bring a new active ingredient, a synthetic active ingredient, to the marketplace. And that's assuming it doesn't get hit with any sort of late stage failures or off target effects along the way. And I think to compound this, the Endangered Species Act, which is now a focus with the EPA, is going to put a lot of additional constraint on any new actives that are coming through. So you're not going to see those big, broad labels that we have in the past. And with our peptides, the premise of our whole platform is really to target those same neuromuscular receptors within an insect, but at a novel site, which again gets us that ability to rotate with those traditional synthetics or just within our peptide product families. And the nice thing about this platform is we can achieve those same milestones in 4 to 6 years at a fraction of the price. So this allows us to bring those new rotational tools at a much faster cadence than the rest of the industry at this point.
BASIN is a broad-spectrum lepidopteran control that will target an array of insects and give growers one more valuable tool to work with when it comes to controlling pests, he says.
It'll control most of your lepidopteran pests, such as navel orangeworm in the tree nut market, codling moth, diamondback moth, armyworm, all your traditional lepidopteran problem pests. In those situations, like in coastal vegetables, diamondback moth has become a continued problem. Just make sure you have enough modes of action to rotate through because of the ability for that to develop a resistance factor fairly quickly. But then even when you look at tree nuts in terms of navel orangeworm control, believe it or not, we've been using the same two AIs for, I think, 15 or 17 years now. So again, giving growers a new tool like SpearLep and Basin Flex are going to be desired to have a new mode of action to work into those rotations to stave off any additional potential resistance it could be or tolerances it could be developing with navel orangeworm.
BASIN's safety profile is said to be soft on pollinators, workers, beneficials, and local biodiversity, which is significant in a state like California that continues to see more stringent rules and regulations when it comes to insecticides. Cicora said it's also going to be significant to the global export industry, which also continues to see stiffer restrictions from other countries.
Yeah, I think, the nice thing about our platform is all of our active ingredients are going to be very similar in the environmental benefits that we bring to the table, right? But I think when you look specifically at California agriculture and just the size and scale and what it means on the global stage in terms of exports, you're going to realize the environmental benefits of these AIs. But I think what's more important is the operational benefits that we deliver. So last year was case in point for a lot of almond and pistachio growers who adopted this new technology with SpearLep, where you had this massive outbreak of navel orangeworm and you had to make a lot of applications later in the season. The beauty of this is when you have all that harvest equipment in a field and ready to go and you have to spray, there's very few things you can spray. And we were one that you can actually make an application and harvest 4 hours later that day. So the 0-day pre-harvest interval and the 4-hour reentry interval really provide some nice operational benefits. But then it's also the flexibility around, being able to work in parallel with many beneficial programs. So a lot of growers are starting to shift more to, putting beneficial insects in the field to help keep secondary pest populations down. And we work really nicely in conjunction with those programs, whether it's beneficial insects or pheromones. We're a nice complement to those programs, as well as, having the flexibility when pollinators are present to still have the application. And then probably our biggest benefit that we're bringing to growers, specifically when it comes to exports. The lack of residues that we have and the residue exemption that we have with BASIN and Spear really provide that confidence to growers. If they're sending a load to Asia or to Europe, they don't have to worry about residue rejections at the port. And this is becoming more and more of a global issue with a lot of the restrictions that Europe is placing on, imports from other countries. It's not the residue tolerances aren't going to go up anymore. If anything, they're going to inch closer and closer to zero. So having that flexibility and the assurance that you won't have a load rejected is turning into a very big selling point.
For MyAgLife, this is Kristen Platts.